Winter Roses, Summer, by fairytalelovr, Chapter 8, Torn Asunder. Cersei yelled out in pure frustration, throwing a vase across the room, smashing it against the rock walls of her guest bedchamber. "Be more subtle, won't you, sister?" said Tyrion, pouring himself a goblet of wine and completely undisturbed by the display of anger. "You are enjoying this, aren't you?" Cersei asked, breathing hard. "On the contrary, I'm greatly dismayed. Though I will say I warned you this was a stupid plan, and had more chances of failing than working. Now, lo and behold, it failed and backfired spectacularly. Robert is more than ever reassured that his good old friend managed to turn the dragon into a house pet, and that his son is keeping her tightly leashed. And the one thing that might have given us an edge, a chance to continue the Targaryen bloodline, was taken in such a violent manner that Robert will never begrudge House Starling their children." "It was not supposed to happen like this. Joffrey was supposed to be sensible." "Dear sister, if you expected sense, you used the wrong boy." "Just a moment," Jaime interrupted before the mood got worse. "Can someone explain what in the bloody hell is happening?" Our sweet sister had the brilliant plan of prompting Joffrey to take the girl and bed her. Well, I believe her words were a little coarser, but let's keep the conversation civil. "Cersei!" Jaime exclaimed. "She was supposed to get pregnant from it, or at least near enough that it would raise the question," Cersei explained. "Then we could tell Robert, and he wouldn't accept a bastard grandchild with dragon blood. He'd accuse her of ingratiating herself to the throne. So he'd kill the girl before she could give birth, and we would be rid of her threat." "You cannot have expected this to work!" Jaime exclaimed in shock. "It had everything to work!" Cersei insisted. "It had everything to fail!" Jaime snapped back. "Tyrion is right. This had everything to blow up in our faces, and it did." "Cersei," Tyrion cut in. "By your own admission, the girl was pretending for Robert. She's smart. She would know that Robert would never accept a bastard grandchild that not only had dragon blood but was also born of an adulterous affair. Well, not when Joffrey is not the one committing adultery. She would have passed the child as her husband's. You know how that works, don't you, sister?" "The point," Jaime had to physically jump between his siblings, "is that now Daenerys Targaryen is virtually untouchable. Again. You had to have realised Robert wouldn't take lightly to rape. After so many years, and you still don't know that he takes rape almost as seriously as he takes treason." "Lyanna Stark," Cersei scoffed. "Fucking Lyanna Stark! Foiling my plans even from the grave." "It's an even bigger mistake because your master plan was set in motion here," Tyrion said. "And after your foolish husband spent the afternoon staring at Lyanna Stark's statue and reminiscing of their love, Joffrey cost us not only the elimination of the Targaryen threat, but also the alliance with the North." Cersei scoffed again. "We don't need an alliance with the North." "Yes, we do," Tyrion said, rolling his eyes. "Especially now that Daenerys Targaryen is beyond our reach once more. Our one way to ensure House Stark, and by extension the whole North, would declare for us, and not the dragon and her bastard husband, was to have Sansa Stark betrothed to Joffrey. Better yet, this is what Robert actually wanted." "I doubt my husband changed his mind." Tyrion laughed, almost choking on his wine. "You cannot truly be expecting Ned Stark to agree with it after the deplorable little scene we just witnessed." "I know that Joffrey was a little shit, but I wasn't expecting that. You saw how he treated the girl, throwing her on the ground and kicking her in front of everyone, leading to a miscarriage in the arms of her own husband. And that is because he usually has others to do his dirty work. Who is to say what he'll do to his own wife within his bedchambers? Ned Stark will never subject his daughter to that, even if she is to be queen." "I will fix it," Cersei said. "I'll talk to Robert. Or father will—" "Not even father will be bold enough to send a man up here after what just happened," Tyrion said, predicting his sister's idea. We must accept the fact that Daenerys Targaryen is, once again, shielded. Accidents do happen. She could just... Enough! Jaime exclaimed, cutting the pointless argument short. There's been enough for one night. Tyrion is right. The girl is untouchable. And this pathetic display will haunt us for years yet. As if House Stark and Avon Lannister didn't have enough grievances already. Now, little brother, would you give us a minute? Far from me to be in your way, Tyrion said, putting his goblet down and jumping to his feet. Just please remember we don't need a second scandal tonight. He left the room quickly, and Cersei stared after him angrily. Once the door closed, Jaime barred it and turned back to his sister. How could you, Cersei? He asked in a low voice. Daenerys Targaryen was a threat to our family. But rape? Throw her down a flight of stairs, off a horse, whatever. But not rape Cersei. That is just... You don't have the stomach to... No, Jaime stated clearly. The faint screams of a lovely queen he was meant to protect, still echoing in his ears, haunting his thoughts through 1 decade and a half of misery. I have the stomach for quite a lot, but not for rape. The girl is a child, and even if she weren't, how can you, as a woman, even think about this? How many times have I been raped? How many times has Robert taken me against my will? We grow to accept it. Jaime clenched his jaw. Just because you suffer the unspeakable, you inflict it on others? You know what? I can't even talk about this right now. I have to go and figure out where your fool of a husband is and pray I don't have to guard his door. With that, Jaime left the room. Cersei broke 3 more vases before sliding to the floor, shaking in anger. Ned was pacing from one side to the other of his now empty study. The day was amounting to be too long already. What had Robert taught his son? Nothing, apparently. He closed his eyes. The scene of the blonde boy pushing Jon away and attacking Daenerys, there in front of everyone. He had been too shocked to react, but now he could see that it was no small wonder that his sons, for Robb was right there next to his brother, didn't have an angrier reaction. Though he supposed punching the prince once and being more worried about his wife seemed coherent with Jon's character. That and Ned and Benjen had impressed on him and Daenerys the absolute, utmost importance of being careful around the Lannisters. He should have spoken up sooner. He would have, except... Seeing out loud Joffrey's actions mimicked that which had led Robert to war once? No. It was always better to keep Lyanna's name as far away from Jon's as possible. The sigil of the winter roses had been enough. But on the other hand, if Ned had meddled earlier, Joffrey wouldn't have... Maester Luwin finally returned to the study. The child. And Daenerys? Ned asked. I can't be certain, but it looks like everything will be fine, though she will be in seclusion now, my lord. Of course. I'll have a guard. Lord Starling already ordered a guard be posted at their doors at all times, and Isla and the handmaiden are scheduling turns to not have the Lady Starling alone at any given moment. Ned nodded, retaking his place at the desk. What was the boy thinking? Perhaps the prince thought he was unreachable by the king's justice. Or perhaps the boy was whipped into acting against Lady Starling. Ned sighed. I do not miss southern petty politics. They don't know how to say anything straight down there. Only polite machinations. I suppose the king has made his offer? Who did? Have you considered your answer? I'm even less inclined to accept, Ned said, exhaling heavily. And I won't allow the betrothal between Sansa and the prince. That boy may be the next king, and the son of a good friend, but he won't be anywhere near my daughter. Very wise, my lord. If you'll excuse me, I have business to attend to. Ned dismissed the man and stayed quiet for several moments until Catelyn came. People are starting to wonder where you are, she said. I needed a moment after that scene. Has Maester Lewin reported back?
Aye. Seems the child is strong.
Catelyn hid her displeased face. As we are alone, has the king made his offer? She asked, and Ned nodded.
He has also asked for Sansa's hand.
Oh my!
Catelyn was delighted. I won't allow it, Ned stated, and her face fell.
But, Ned, she would be queen!
After what we just witnessed, how can you want that for your daughter?
Oh, but he would treat his lady wife differently. He is a prince.
Ned looked at her, shocked. Honestly, Catelyn, I find myself amazed at some of the things you say. A man's nature is not defined by the titles he attaches to his name. Something I should have learned when Lyanna said it. If I'd taken her side against the betrothal, he thought, then stopped himself. It's over, he added. No use mulling over the past again.
How can you not want your daughter to be queen? Catelyn asked, flabbergasted.
Because I want her to be safe and happy, Ned answered bitterly. I have learned my lesson on forcing girls into ill-suiting marriages. We should go down to the party, he said, standing up, uncomfortable with the conversation.
He remembered all too well what had happened the last time the Stark had gone south. He knew all too well what had happened to the last Stark who wanted to marry a prince. Promise me, Ned, she had begged as Jon squirmed in his arms. And she lay dying in a bed of blood, winter roses scattered all over her. He would not allow that to be the fate of his eldest daughter. Isla placed a single winter rose on the statue's extended hand, taking away the feather she knew wouldn't be taken kindly. She was so distracted in her prayers she didn't hear the footsteps.
What are you doing here? Ned asked, confused.
My lord! Isla jumped to her feet, startled. I was... Ned blinked, clarity taking over his mind.
I knew you being a laundry maid for years wasn't why you looked familiar. You're the nurse, aren't you? The nurse I brought from Dawn.
Isla hesitated, but knew there was no way to lie. Please, my lord. I mean the little lord no harm. I promised her. I only came back to care for the boy.
Came back? Ned was confused. What do you... You were dismissed, he realised.
You never knew. Isla came to her own realisation. She never told you. Ned blushed.
Lady Stark was in charge of the household.
She planted a ring in my room, my lord, and had me leave in the middle of the night, or she'd make sure I was sentenced to death.
What did you actually do? Ned asked with a frown.
Got food for him. Cared for him. I didn't let her starve him. He was only 3 when she ran me away. I couldn't just let her torture the boy. So I went up north. Took a job in helping a midwife in Bear Island. 5 years later, I supposed that the Bay of Ice had erased enough of Dawn's sun from my skin for me to come back. Got a job in the laundry, and I've been caring for him from afar as much as I could.
All for her? Ned asked, pointing to his sister's image.
She cared for my girl, when no one else would, and she trusted me to care for and feed her son when she couldn't. Yes, my lord, it is all for her. And for him.
Then the gods were right when they made me name you the housekeeper.
Honestly, my lord, I would have found my way to the blessed island one way or another, she stated, and Ned smiled. She wouldn't hold it against you, my lord. She was too caring for that.
She'd yell at me all the same,
Ned said with a small smile. Well, she was fierce enough, she was. Isla agreed, turning to leave. If I can be so bold, my lord. She'd talk about you a lot. And to me, it looks like you lost your heart when you lost her. You're starting to get it back now. Don't stop. Isla left quickly, not giving Ned a chance to reply before she was gone. He stayed there, staring at the statue, trying to get his troubled thoughts on order. Jon was sitting stiffly on the armchair by the fire as Daenerys slept, though it was late morning already. He was still wearing his pants and tunic from the feast, neither of them attended, and hadn't slept a wink. Nightmares of bloodied babies haunted him when he tried. Catelyn came in, smirked at his distressed figure, and scoffed as she looked at Daenerys. Of course she wouldn't lose the child. Bastards have the will to be born to shame their parents. Yours will too. Jon felt his blood boil with anger. Rather than yell and create a scene, what he supposed was Lady Catelyn wanted, he told her to leave. She smiled with venom in her eyes. I have no desire to stay here and watch a low-born bastard ruin the life of a princess, Catelyn said darkly. Why must the boy and his little wife ruin everything? First the bastard got to marry a princess, and she still wasn't convinced by what Ned had said about it being a punishment, and now the girl had enticed the prince and ruined Sansa's chance of being queen. Fed up, Jon took his stepmother by the arm and pulled her out of the room, not forcibly enough to hurt her, but still enough to see the anger in her eyes growing. But she had timed her latest wickedness poorly, and this time Ned was coming to see Daenerys, and witnessed it as she said, I curse the day your whore of a mother opened your legs to my husband. I prayed to the gods you would die as a child, but none of them listened. I prayed Daenerys would be spared the shame of marrying you, but they didn't listen. I prayed she wouldn't be saddled with the shame of bearing your child, and even when I prayed the child wouldn't thrive. Catelyn! Ned exclaimed, horrified. She went pale, caught, just as they had started to mend their marriage. Jon could barely hold in his anger, his blood boiling in righteous fury. I cannot believe my own ears, Ned said, completely shocked. Nothing she hasn't said before, father. Jon made sure to use the title, knowing it would incense her further. I am not a naive little boy you can bully any more, Lady Stark. Your words can't hurt me. They haven't for years. You say you pray to your gods? Seems like they care for you so much they never listened. I, however, will never pray for your death. You're the mother of my siblings, though they deserve better. And if it is the gods' will that you should give me more siblings, I do wish that they take, even if they'll be too good for the mother they'll have. Now get out of my chambers and don't return. You'll never be in the presence of my wife again. She doesn't need to hear your poison. You dare banish me from a room inside my own castle? My father's castle. And it will be my brother's after that. Never yours. And don't worry. As soon as Lady Starling is fit to travel, we shall leave. I have had to put up with you calling me a bastard and worse my whole life. I won't have you anywhere near my child. He turned and walked into the room, before turning back to the disheartened woman. I know I represent my father's broken vows, and I never hoped you'd like me for that reason. But then you hated me too much for it to be simply that. It wasn't until I grew up a bit more, until Bran came, that I understood. You love Robb. No one can dispute that. But you don't make any effort to hide that Bran is your favourite. But he is the second son. He won't inherit anything. He'll always be the second son. You can't hope for him to become the heir without hoping for the death of your firstborn. All the while, me, a bastard from an unknown mother, I get a title, a castle, lands, and a princess for a wife. If that is the result of your prayers, I believe it speaks volumes of what your beloved gods think of your actions. Jon closed the door on Catelyn's face, sighing. There was satisfaction in having gotten all of that off his chest, and in front of his father as well. But then again, Catelyn's words didn't come without weight.
Go to my study.
Ned.
Catelyn, he said lowly. Go to my study and wait for me there. I need to calm down, or I swear to the gods I won't be able to hold back from striking you.
She shivered and left quickly. Ned braced himself on the wall, breathing heavily. It was one thing for his wife to be petty and deny his bastard son fine clothes, and even food, whenever she judged that he'd misbehaved. But this was going too far. To wish for the death of a child. To wish for a babe that wouldn't. He started to cry, sobs racking his body. He didn't even hear the door reopening until Jon put a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, Father. I shouldn't have. But Ned only turned and pulled his son into a tight hug. I am the one who is sorry, he said between sobs. I am so sorry, son. I can never say it enough. I failed you and I failed her. Jon froze. Was he talking about... I promised her I would care for you, that I'd protect you, and I failed. All she wanted, all she begged me for was for you to be safe, and I failed. You're alive, but you... I am so sorry. Jon felt his heart race. He was talking about his mother, something he always refused to do. But his father was too upset to be questioned. Besides, he had just admitted that his mother had wanted him safe and protected. Whoever she was, she had cared. She had loved her baby son. Jon could live on this knowledge alone. Father, I mean it. You don't need to apologize. Her prayers never did any good. She is just a cold, bitter woman. She is, Ned said, righting himself and seeming reinvigorated by something. You're not leaving. Father, you are not leaving. Especially when Daenerys needs rest. And your home is in no state to house a delicate pregnancy and a babe. Winterfell is your home. It's your blood. And birthright. I'll deal with Catelyn. Ned cleared his tears as he headed to his study. She'd forgive you, Benjen had said. Whack you on the head and yell a bit. But she'd forgive you. To me, it looks like you lost your heart when you lost her, Isla had just told him down in the crypt. You are starting to get it back now. Don't stop. Catelyn was inside the study, pacing. He took his seat at his desk and kept his voice even as he could. You will quietly collect your things and leave for Riverrun in the morning. You won't return to Winterfell until I say otherwise. If I decide to say otherwise. But Ned! This is my decision, and my decision is final. I could overlook your pettiness. Denying Jon clothes and food, even firewood. But this goes beyond. You confessed you prayed for his death as an infant. The boy I told you was my son, whom I loved. And you prayed for his death, and prayed against his marriage. And once that took place, you prayed for his wife's barrenness. And when even that failed, you prayed for her to lose the child. A babe, Catelyn. An innocent babe. I took Daenerys in and allowed this marriage, because she was a baby innocent of the crimes of her family name. Now you tell me, you condemn my grandchild for this reason. This I cannot forgive. You will leave for Riverrun, and if your father dares raise arms, you had better tell him why I am sending you back. I love you, Ned. All I did because I love you and our children. No, Catelyn.
All you did because you were too cruel against a child innocent of the mistakes of his parents. Cruel, because that is what she was, what she had done. Cruelty masqueraded as protecting their children, as loving their children.
Yes, my lord, it is all for her, and for him.
Love was not selfish. Love was giving up your life for another. What Catelyn had done was not love.
So, you would destroy our marriage because of him?
She asked, trembling. You destroyed our marriage the day you wished evil upon my son.
Ned, I love you!
I thought I loved you. I thought that even if our marriage was arranged, I had learned to love you. I was wrong. I loved an illusion. A woman who didn't exist. The woman I loved would be incapable of wishing ill on a child, of praying for a child's death.
Catelyn was holding back tears. Ned, please, I'll never speak to the boy or his wife again. I promise.
Leave for Riverrun in the morning, Catelyn. And you can tell people you are doing so because your father is calling you, or whatever other reason. Defy me, and I'll drag you into the carriage, and the whole North will know I am setting you aside.
She was shaking. This is about her, isn't it? His mother. You love her more than you love me.
I told you. All I loved was the illusion I had of you, Ned said, keeping his voice as even as he could.
But you love her more, don't you?
Ned finally snapped. I do. I love her more than I ever love you. Than I ever could. Until my dying breath, I'll care more about Jon's mother than I could care about you. No one will ever take her place in my heart.
Is she even alive?
Leave, Catelyn. Don't try my patience or I will drag you out right now.
She sobbed, succumbing to her tears, and ran out of the room. Ned sighed, exhausted. He hadn't lied, but he knew he didn't mean it the way Catelyn understood. He could never love any woman more than he had loved his sister, though purple eyes haunted his dreams still. And no one would ever take Lyanna's place in his heart. The place of a beloved sister. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that. Oh my god, that was intense. But I also loved it and hated it for the same reasons. Because wishing ill on a child is something I will never condone. In my fictional world that I am building, one of the greatest crimes you can commit is magically wishing ill on a child. Do that and it's an unspeakable crime. Because what Catelyn did, oh days, this is basically the opposite of An Empire of Ice and Fire in terms of Catelyn's story arc. Instead of learning to let go of her anger and forgiving and trying to accept Jon and being a grandmother to his children, it's the opposite. She's praying for their death instead, which I cannot forgive. But I love that Ned is still dealing with it honourably and is like intentionally calming himself down. And Jon, knowing that his mother loved him, but also seeing that his father is too upset to be questioned, even though Jon is desperate to know about his mother. Maturity on all sides other than Catelyn. I respect that. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.